Just a reminder that any thoughts, opinions, and points of views expressed during this podcast are those of the individual and not of the Grand Lodge, appendant body, or concordant body that individual may belong.
Hello, everybody. Jeff Bennett here. Really excited tonight. I get a chance to talk to one of my really good buddies. He's a rock star. He's a rising star. He's an all-around Masonic leadership star. He's my buddy, Patrick Carr. And so without any further ado, I'd like to bring him on and talk about his new book, Working Tools, and how it can help you in your Masonic leadership and your Masonic experience. So Patrick, how's it going tonight?
Oh, life is good. Hey, I'm on with you guys. I'm relaxed. I'm sitting at home, and we just returned from a fantastic Masonic weekend. So, hey, life is good.
Yeah, some of us are actually Masonic road tripping and might be in the same house as you. This is cool. We're having so much fun.
You might be near me somewhere, but not in the same room. Yeah.
So, well, enough yucky yuck. This is a really fun but serious subject. And you've written a book. It's very accessible. I think it's not trying to do anything other than give some good solid points on how the individual and groups can improve the Masonic experience. So tell us a little bit about your book.
Well, Working Tools probably started 8 or 10 years ago. I can remember when the first time I was master of a lodge, I read Carl Claudy's The Master's Handbook. And it really impressed me on things I could do as a master to try to reconnect with our lodge members. But it really didn't talk about the experience. And over the last 10 years, I've been jotting notes here and there, experimenting on what worked for me in my lodge situation, not necessarily worked every time. So the book has basically included different things that any brother can do to try to increase his experience within the lodge. I mean, we talk a lot about the Masonic experience, and what really is that? It's really not a buzzword. It's meant, Masonic experience is everything that happens from the time you arrive at lodge to the time you leave. And my book, Working Tools, is about ways to transform that lodge experience, but not just lodges. You could use it in your pendant bodies. You could use it in Eastern Star, your youth groups. It focuses on what we're doing before the meeting, what we do during the meeting, like meals right before the meeting, the education, and which is, me, I believe education is tantamount to successful Masonic experience, and what we do after. I mean, the best times we have in lodge are sometimes just the fellowship, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. I go for fellowship, but we want to add that little bit of extra to it, that Masonic education that shows you that you're learning things in lodge. And this is part of the reason I wrote the book, was to try to get some of the things that I've seen in the last 10, 15 years that actually worked, and to give ideas to Masons who are in their lodge, young and old, who want to make it a better experience for them and for those who are attending with.
So as yourself, you've been in Freemasonry for a while. You've done leadership courses. There's all kinds of handbooks out there. Grand jurisdictions have them. Officer training courses over weekends and different things like that, maybe one-day classes and things. How is this going to benefit someone that's maybe even been through those things, or how is this going to be complementary or supplementary to the experiences like that you've had?
Most of those experiences, in fact, pretty much all of them I've ever attended or read the handbooks of, are excellent. They're teaching you how to be a leader, how to function as a leader in a Masonic sense or even a Masonic experience. But what it doesn't focus on is, what are you doing in the lodge? It usually focuses on how a master manages his lodge, how a senior or junior warden are supposed to function, what the officers are doing. It focuses on great leadership. What Working Tools does is it really looks at the inner workings, not only of your leadership, but how do you plan events? We all want to do cool special events, right? That's something we love in Masonry. As I've talked to brothers, they don't know how to necessarily plan an event. They don't know how to make sure the food is a little higher quality, how to even provide education. This really focuses less on your leadership ability and more on how to give that better experience to those who are attending your lodge to make them want to return. Nobody wants to go through a boring lodge meeting. And my favorite thing is that I had a pastor that used to talk about sit, soak, and scram. You come to church, you sit down, you listen to him talk to you for 25 minutes, and you scram. You get out of there. How many times have we visited lodges where that's what you did? Working Tools is designed to inspire that generation of leadership to look at what they're doing, to say that we don't want to sit, soak, and scram. We may want to sit, we may want to soak up some really good stuff, but we're going to hang out a little bit longer. We're going to spend time together as brothers, and we're going to learn. Leadership handbooks are fantastic, and I love the whole leadership thing. My master's degree is in strategic leadership, so I groove on the leadership stuff. But this adds that extra level to give our brothers and sisters in their different lodges and Eastern Stars a better way of functioning and a better way of having an experience they can enjoy instead of, well, we've got to go read the minutes. Let's get out of here.
Yeah, I think the more you and I talk about it and you unpack things for me, it's really about what you're trying to say, and you're helping them define in a way those experiences, what to look for, maybe even suggesting some standards or some expectations, and not really just worrying about goals and process, but more of organic purpose and being and really looking at things. How do groups really work best together? I think that's what you've conveyed to me. And I think, if you want to expand upon that.
No, it's exactly right. We've come into a lodge setting nowadays where we don't have the expectations that we probably would have had 40 years ago, where we expected more happening in our lodge, not just showing up, let's open. And believe me, I think the ritual is very important. Don't get me wrong. The ritual is super important to us as Masons. So we go through our ritual opening. We argue about $2 on the electric bill. We don't use consent agendas. Some jurisdictions allow it. I understand that. But for those that do, it's a way for us to get through the work, do the work equitably and well, and get into what matters. The reason you come to lodge, to learn. We're going to try to learn something. We do a speaker series here in central Kansas, where a lot of our lodges will schedule a different speaker for each of their meetings. If they meet once a month, they bring in a new speaker. This year, we focused at McPherson on appendant bodies. We had a past imperial potentate. We had the Deputy Supreme Council of the Scottish Rite. We had the Grand Master. We had he's now the past grand worthy patron of Kansas, Eastern Star. We really focused on that because they had some good education they could bring to us. Heck, our last meeting was about quantum physics and cosmology. And the brother that bought it is very learned. And it was very inspiring. It was deep, but it was very inspiring. And it caused a lot of people to ask a lot of questions in our lodge. So when we left, many of us stayed around and really grilled him more about his concepts of cosmology and quantum physics. So yeah, it's intended to really get us not only planning how we have them, but carrying that meeting through to fruition.
Awesome. So I think we've kind of covered a few things. Is the book like 300 pages long, and are there 25 how-to exercises, or give us kind of, what's the deal there?
Well, when I wrote it, I had that delusions of pikish grandeur where I wanted to write, 400-word sentences in one paragraph with no punctuation. And I realized nobody would read it. All kidding aside, the book was originally a little over 100 pages. I went back in and pared it down. It's about 75, 78. It can be read in one sitting. There's plenty of room in the back for notes. We added notes pages because as you're going through here, you may see something that tweaks you. And you go, oh, I never thought about doing that. So that could assist me into advertising my event better, which means more people come, which means more people enjoy it. One thing I've learned is the more who come and enjoy what you're offering in your lodge experience, they want to go back to their lodge and emulate that experience.
Yeah. Yeah, it can be a spontaneous combustion and kind of spawn different things. And I know, especially visiting here this weekend and spending time with you and the other guys from Kansas that I know that y'all are really focused on making things the best they can be and doing it the way that fits the Kansas culture, not doing it the way that you like to do it. And you're really I really feel the adaptation to, this is what'll work. We've tried some other things, or if it doesn't try, hey, don't point fingers, just point in a new direction. So I really key into that. So the other thing I think that would be interesting about your book to know is more about you, maybe as an author, presenter, what you have going on and what you're doing, and those type of things.
Okay. I'm very active in our lodge. I'm a member of 4 lodges here in Kansas. Only 2 do I get to on a regular basis. McPherson 172, which is the lodge, I mean, literally 200 feet from my back door. It's kind of nice to have lodge in your backyard almost. I do enjoy being able to walk to lodge and grab my apron case. The other lodge I'm most active in is Caledonia, which is our Celtic Heritage Lodge. And yes, gentlemen, we wear kilts to lodge. We also host a speaker series there, and we have an annual Celtic gathering outdoors. I'm very active in our Yorkite bodies. I serve in our Grand Chapter, Council, and Commandery. I'm active. I serve as a Grand Lodge officer. I'm an Area Deputy Grand Master here for Area 3 in Kansas. I try to spend my time equitably. You try to spread it over everything where you're asked to help. You lead where you can. You inspire others to lead. And I believe in helping others to lead. There are a lot of people that are look at me. I got to be in the spotlight. Man, I'm happy to do the spotlight. I'm happy to sit in the back row and give you the thumbs up and say, man, you're great on your presentation. I loved hearing it. But I'm also happy to go out to other lodges and present. I speak to other lodges or bodies about 12 to 15 times each year, either on education presentations or leadership development, even a little financial advice sometimes on running special events that you hope to make money from. So I do spend a lot of time in travel. I travel all over Kansas. I travel into Oklahoma quite a bit. I've been down in Texas, been in Nebraska. I just kind of go where I'm asked to go. Next week, I'll be presenting in the Nebraska Scottish Rite for their colloquialism. And I'm going to do some esoteric stuff there. So I kind of talk everything from esoteric to history to Masonic research and leadership skills.
So we know about the book. We know about Patrick. What is the best way that you would recommend either getting your book in hard copy, or I think you have some digital options there also?
Absolutely. You can go to Amazon.com and you can look for my author's page, Patrick C. Carr, or you can look up Working Tools. It's listed under the Masonic section of Amazon. It comes in a hardback version. It's $14.95 through Amazon. It also comes in a Kindle version that's $9.95. So it depends on what you like. If you want to have it on your phone or your laptop, or you may want to opt for the Kindle version. There's also no shipping on the Kindle version, so it's like immediate self-gratification. It shows up, you're happy, you get it. But if you do want a hard copy of the book, you can go through Amazon. You can call me, you can write me or send me an email. Happy to personally autograph one and ship it to you. Hey, even if you've seen me at Masonic events, bring your book. I end up signing my books quite a bit at Masonic events, it would seem.
So we have an additional person. He's been hidden off camera for a minute. It's the great and wonderful chemical Rodney. And so he wants to come on here. Rodney is McGillvary is from Indiana, and he helps me with these interviews and podcasts and these shows. Rodney, do you have a couple questions for Patrick?
Hey there, Jeff. Thanks for having me on your show. Appreciate being here. Yes, Jeff, I am really pleased to hear that you're doing some, I'd call it traditional observance type of lodges over there. We got one here that I helped start, and it's called the Lodge of St. Andrews. It's a Scottish/English traditional observance lodge, and we wear kilts as well. And we got a bagpipe player that plays us in the lodge. Um, those are the type of lodges I think are really drawing in a lot of the members that are wanting a little bit more meat to their meeting. I would like to see a lot more of these type of lodges starting. Seems to be catching on locally. What about you, Jeff? Are you seeing more of that type of lodge over there in Texas?
Yeah, there's some of that. I mean, we have several of those. I would call them more affinity lodges around the state. Sometimes they meet, they're focused on the Texas Rangers history. Sometimes they have historical backgrounds to them. Sometimes they're what you would call a traditional observance. Sometimes they're affinity lodges. We have several of those. A lot of them are we've resurrected it or rechartered it. It was a charter that had, of a lodge that had demised, and so and then we've got some of those things on the York side also, some of those specialty things. So yeah, I mean that's something I think is going on in a lot of different states, and I think a lot of us that kind of know each other nationally are kind of promoting that. And so when you see it over here, you see this being done, you're like, hey, we may not do it exactly like them. We're not copying them, but hey, it never, what is there? There's no, what did Solomon say? There's nothing new under the sun. And you just go and repackage the best ideas anyway and the best practices. So it's really not anything unethical. It's just really being wise, I think.
Are there any ideas you have, Patrick, that can bring those ideas, traditional, just regular Blue Lodge?
Well, the ideas from the book, I mean, basically that's what it's aimed at. We only have one, what I would call traditional observance lodge here, and it's Inner Quest. It's up near Kansas City. They really do function like a TO lodge. The TO lodges usually, when they're doing traditional observance stuff, they usually are doing most of the stuff that's already included in my book because they've already answered that big question. What experience do we want to give our members and visitors? They've already went through and had their own basic SWOT analysis. They know what their strengths are, their weaknesses, their opportunities, and their threats to their existence and their membership attendance. This is really aimed at the lodges that really don't know yet. Some of the items in there, education, it's really funny is we really refer to high education now, or good education, as traditional observance stuff. We really do. Because we've gotten so far away from having that type of education. A lodge normally sees a quick read of the minutes, from 100 years ago, or they'll have someone read, part of the law book for whatever jurisdiction you may be in. Or my favorite, what I've termed popcorn education. That's when somebody pops up and says George Washington was a Mason, and everybody in the room goes ooh. And it's not to be negative, but we all know George Washington was a Mason. I'd like to know what, as a Mason, gave him better leadership skills. What, as a Mason, gave him the connections to free a nation, to lead our country to victory, and then to lead as our first president. That's the kind of education I like to hear if I'm going to hear historical education, not George Washington or Harry S. Truman was a Mason. But and I call it popcorn because they kind of pop up real quick and they throw this factoid out and they sit down and smile. And I'm proud for those brothers that do that because they're at least trying to bring something lively to a meeting that is probably ground to a halt. And they want to start getting that meeting going again. But if we plan this and we really schedule the education, the chances are, and when you advertise it, more people will show up. I can tell you the years that I was master and had planned education, sad to say I had more visitors than our members attend. That's okay. But we had visitors that came because they wanted to see what was going on and they wanted to have that experience that we were having, that the 10 or 12 of us who attended every lodge meeting really enjoyed having.
Very nice. Yeah, I definitely agree. I'm trying to get education started in a couple different Blue Lodges I'm part of here in Indiana because it's the lodges themselves are dying out, and I think that might be a little additive to maybe bring some of the members in that are pretty vacant and make them more active, hopefully.
Yeah,
It seems like boredom's the key to.
you gotta. I mean, you gotta have the right kind of education. Not to soapbox too much myself, but you can't talk over their heads, and like you can't popcorn them and give them their salt and butter and be kind of Captain Obvious. There's kind of a middle ground there, and that's a lot of times you've got to, you can't come in also kind of unsolicited advice for those of us that step out and raise our head above the surface and want to be these Masonic educators and presenters and things. You really need to look around the room as you're giving a presentation, or you need to bounce it off of your inner circle of buddies, or maybe some people that you don't even really hang out with a lot. And say, can I come on Zoom and give you this and warm it up a little bit and make sure that you get some really good feedback? Because I know myself, and I think all three of us, we've been doing this a while, and I think we're easier to listen to than when we started. I think we're more interesting and more engaging than when we started, because we either know how to move through our subject matter and present it in a certain way, or we looked around the room and we saw people bored. And we're like, you know what? I'm not doing this to bore people and to make myself look good. I'm doing this to engage people, and just, if there's 14 people in the room, I don't care if 1 to 4 of them are excited whenever I leave the building tonight and think differently. That's all I'm looking for, because it just takes a few, as we know, to
How
change.
are they going to learn anything if they're bored, falling asleep, and you're there? You're supposed to be teaching them something.
And if you're telling them everything that you know, and you're not really engaging them to see what they want to know, and that's kind of some presentation communication 101 type stuff, but it's there. And sometimes people just have never been, they know something, they want to get involved, they're being pushed maybe by one of the guys like us that's mentoring them, and we've got to bring them along and give them safe spaces to hone their craft. Just like, wow, doesn't this sound like Freemasonry? Start them out as an entered apprentice, entered presenter, and then move them into a fellow of the chatty craft, and then let them be a mastermind and really master the message. And so I think that's one of those things that, we kind of turned this into a little roundtable forum here, but it really is those things. I think education's a deadly word. I think it's a really, you say education, it's like dropping a grenade in the room. It just explodes everywhere, and it really doesn't accomplish anything. And it's interesting, after you say education, oh yeah, we got to get people doing the ritual right. No, that's ritualistic training. Oh, well, when they do it, they don't know the meaning of the words. Maybe that's what the three of us would think is education, or all of it being education. The training of the ritual, moving into the performance of it, and then, hey, now that you know this, contemplate it, think about it, and interpret it. And I think that's the process of what's missing. There's not that balance. Either people are focusing on just the right words and just the right place to stand in this part of the degree or something, and hey, no, wear your gloves here and don't wear them, whatever it is. Yeah. We won't even go into the whole thing about Blue Lodges carrying rods and staffs. That's a non-Texas thing, but that's a whole thing. It's always funny to me whenever I go to other states. But I think that's what you really have. That's what you have to define. I think that's the conversation you have to have, and you have to go, does this interest anybody? Not, you don't need to over market it. You don't need to over bake that. You don't need to do too much data analysis. You can use, I think sometimes in Freemasonry, let's go out and just talk to people. Does this interest you? Do you have, is there enough of a following or a tribe or a niche market there? Don't worry about the mass market. Just worry about those who have ears to hear and those who have eyes to see. I'm going to wear that phrase out with you guys, but in the future, but that's what I've just come to find out. And I think you're happier with the process and your contributions, and then those who receive it.
It's interesting. You said that, when you mentioned the word education, people kind of freak out a little bit. One of the things that we say in Kansas is when they'll usually say, if someone bought light for the evening, and that does sound a lot better and a lot softer than who's going to give education. Sometimes when you say who's giving education, it may feel like, oh, great, we're going to get lectured to or at. And I think when you say who's bought Masonic light this evening, it does soften it a little bit. I mean, I'm in my 3rd term as chairman of the Kansas Masonic Ed Committee, and we usually use Teaching, we will call it teaching resources, Masonic light. Very seldom we throw the word education in. And because I do think for some brothers, that could be a negative connotation. We can't teach them and we can't help them if we can't get to them.
That's true. And it gives everyone a reminder that this stuff is Masonic light. It's what we're searching for.
I always say that I lead discussions. I'm facilitating discussions. It's not me doing it's not a passive. This isn't a spectator sport. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. But there's group dynamics, and if you have 50 people in a room, sometimes, and it depends on the culture that you're in and kind of where you're at and things. Sometimes there's certain groups that I know that there's probably groups that we would be in, and we couldn't get 9 people to be quiet long enough to hear one person giving an erudite point over the other. But I would love it. I would just be like, oh my gosh, I'm in heaven right now. But that's my personality. But there's other people that have a different personality, because my wife reminds me about it all the time. And that not everybody's like me, and not everybody's going to like what I like, and that's okay too. But you've got to find things, and you got to be kind of honest with yourself and everybody else. Go do a presentation and really get people to slow down and go, okay, are you really happy with this? Like, are we really going the right direction? You have to kind of also constantly be kind of reassessing the process. I think that's what I've done, and I'm not perfect, but I really think that I enjoy what I started doing about 5 or 6 years ago in person, and well, Patrick can be the judge of it. He saw me present for a few minutes last night, so hopefully I made some good points and did some good things. So yeah,
did well. I mean, I think a lot of the guys were impressed. You had 40 guys who just stayed focused on you and weren't chatting around the table after dinner. I mean, that's impressive. Anytime you get people to stop and listen, you might learn something. What a concept. And being in a group like the Allied Masonic degrees, the whole point is education and light and listening and learning. So I think having you at our in gathering was a blessing. You did really well, and I'll let you know the notes I get from people. But so far, I know people are very happy.
That's awesome, and that's important. I enjoyed doing that and things like this, and you need that good feedback. It was good. It really is helpful. And I would even coach people as a participant or as an attendee to go up, and if you like something and it kind of spoke out to you, give people detailed feedback, or tell them, I'd love to hear more of this. Please don't argue with us though. Or really be mean about it. You can argue with us, just debate with us. So that would be my encouragement there. Now, what do you think, Rodney? You talk to people.
I was going to ask Patrick, do you do many presentations yourself aside from being an author? Are you out there actually going to lodges presenting as well?
Actually, I am. Like I said, I present 12 to 15 times a year minimum. At least once a month, sometimes twice a month. I have lodges, Scottish Rite, York Rites, where I'll go make presentations, either on something generic to their rituals, some esoteric things, or history. I'm going to be at Albert Pike Lodge in Wichita in their new building here in a couple weeks. I'm going to be talking about an event that happens in St. Francisville, Louisiana, called the Day the War Stopped. For you at home, Google it, look it up. Happens on the second weekend of June every year, and it's a blast. You get a chance to go. It's wonderful. It's a great chance to learn about the history of our great fraternity and the lengths we would go to help a brother in distress, even during war. This was a Civil War event. So yeah, I'm going to present on that in a few weeks. I think later this week or it's early next week, I'm going to be doing the alchemical symbols of the Star of David or the Sign of Solomon here at Scottish Rite. It's more targeted towards the Scottish Rite. I'm always writing. I've got another 2 books I'm working on, mainly Masonic history, less leadership and experience and more history. And I've already presented on some of that information some things that happened in 1899 in Pikes Peak in Colorado.
Nice. I would love to be.
And by the way, Rodney, Patrick has promised me that he's going to also not just have an Amazon author page, but he's going to help. He's going to have a Facebook authors page. So once we get this into production, he should have that. We can link that to our media outlets from this episode.
Yeah, send Jeff any links that we can attach to the post or the release of this.
Absolutely. I'll get you some links. Yeah, I need to put that up right now. The everything comes off of my Facebook page or off of my the FOPC. That generates a lot of traffic daily. That's a fun thing that happened, and we've kind of owned it at this point in our lives.
Are both of you?
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask are both of you going to Masonic Week this coming February? That's right around the corner.
Of course. Duh. Yeah. Yeah. No, and that's one of the places that you can go find, especially people. It's helpful. I mean, there are people there that aren't members of all the different invitational bodies, which that's sometimes, you have to be right places and those things. But there are a lot of people there that just enjoy coming and being around 300 to 400 Masons that are very passionate about being in our fraternity, and they love it, and it's a way of life for them. A lot of them express it in different ways. There's a lot of things that if you're not in certain groups or you haven't had certain titles and positions at your local level, you wouldn't be allowed to be in those meetings. But it's Washington, D.C. I mean, it's really a great time of the year. It's not a heavy tourist time when you're there. If you're a Mason, there's 3 or 4 or 5 different beautiful Masonic buildings: House of the Temple, George Washington Memorial Building, the Scottish Rite of D.C., and some other stuff, along with all the other national monuments and Smithsonian's and museums and stuff. I think it's been a great thing for me for the last 5 years of my life. And Patrick, I know you've gone how many years?
Well, first time I went was back in 2016, and didn't get to go again until 3 years ago. I think this will be the 4th year in a row we've went, I believe. So we just keep going. We get a bigger group from Kansas every year to go, and they find out just how much fun it is, how many relationships they meet. I always tell them it's the one place Masonically when you have such a large gathering of people that everybody is. We talk about being on the level, but everybody's on the level. I tell my guys, this man, you're going to run into guys that have written wonderful books that you've only read their stuff and never met them. Yeah, they'll shake your hand and sit there and talk your ear off. I mean, you're going to meet leaders from Grand Encampment, General Grand Chapter and Council, and Scottish Rite. You know what? And everybody's we're all together being Masons. I see a lot of egos checked at doors, and I really, really like that. It's just a great time. I'd encourage anybody who has the opportunity, who's in New York, right, to pay a visit.
But the real secret of Masonic Week is after hours.
That's where all the important meetings happen. You know that as well as I do.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. It's almost like the more you go, the more you almost like pre-plan and set up almost like appointments. Like, what days are you going to be there? What are you going to be doing with all your buddies and stuff? So you can be like, okay, well, we got to find like one night or one afternoon, or we got to like, do you want to go out to Mount Vernon to get like, you start putting together these little things where it's your, you just kind of bounce around and you're like, oh my gosh, okay, ooh, what are you doing right now? Nothing. Okay, let's go do this. And so, case in point, this whole thing tonight happened because somebody went and ate pizza the first day we were there at lunch. The two of us, Patrick and I, and some guys from Kansas that I know, and literally here we are, 48 hours, couple months and 48 hours later, and I hope it's half was a wonderful experience for me. It's for him. So yeah,
Hey,
it's,
man,
are you coming sometime, Rodney?
Yeah, I should be able to make it this year.
awesome.
Yeah. There's
You told me.
there's probably going to be a big carload of us from Indiana heading down there.
Oh, so you're going to be employed by some merchandise guys, is what you're saying.
There's a merchandise guy included.
Yeah, I hear.
Oh,
I think you're part of the road crew. I
I
get
know
it.
what you'll be doing.
That's in with one now.
I don't know if you guys noticed on the Masonic Week website for 2025, they're actually doing orientation every morning for people that haven't been to Masonic Week before.
Yep. It's
Well,
it's
that'll be my
it's a new
first,
era.
so
Yeah, it's a new era, and I don't know much about that, but yeah, I did notice that.
Yeah.
But we'll tell you how you really do it the right way, Rodney. We'll help you on your maiden voyage there.
look forward to it.
We got you covered, buddy.
I know.
Just stick
It'll be
with
a great
us.
time, I know.
Just bring a credit card.
Yeah. Checkbooks and credit
Just bring a credit card.
cards.
Really.
Yeah.
Patrick, is
Well,
there
Patrick,
any final comments you'd like to make?
Guys, I appreciate you guys having me on. I mean, you guys are just as passionate about this craft as I am, and the guys that we all run together. I mean, it's a very big craft, but it's a very small world. It's amazing how we run into the same friends and the same people, the same passions that want to do the same things that we're all trying to do. They want to just have a good experience for themselves, but they want to show that passion and give that experience to others. And podcasts like this and some of the other stuff that we're doing around the country, it's great. This is what Masonry is about: getting people together, exchanging ideas, and trying to be inspirational. And I know that you guys inspire me, and I really appreciate all you're doing.
wow. Thank you so much, and very well said. Well, this is the end of our episode tonight for the Pin and the Cross, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Patrick Carr. I'm the author of the book Working Tools, Guide to Transforming Your Masonic Experience. Just want to let you know that our book is available now through Amazon.com. It's $14.95 in its softback edition. It's also $9.95 for a Kindle edition. The idea of the book is to enable you, the member of a Masonic Lodge, to be able to look at some things that we've tried and have become tried and true methods of increasing your ability to have a much better Masonic experience. The book includes everything from how to plan leadership when you have the opportunity to serve your lodge as master, or any other of the appendant bodies. But really, it's aimed at helping you create a Masonic experience in your lodge that's long-lasting, true, and enjoyable. We hope that you enjoy the book. We hope that you're able to use it to make your experience much better. God bless.
Well, thank you again for attending this episode of Pen and Compass.